I think one of the major problems in our society is that we live in these different echo chambers and bubbles, and it's not just the political situation. It's also increasingly every aspect of our lives. It's sports, it's movies, it's television, it's possibly video games. I mean, we haven't seen as much of it there, but it's definitely become that to some extent. And now we live in like these two different cultures where conservatives have like one culture where they don't watch the Super Bowl on purpose. They want to protest against it because they don't like Colin Kaepernick kneeling at the games. And then you've got liberals who don't even know what the Sound of Freedom movie is because they've never even seen it. They've never heard anything about it because like whatever, like it's not in their wheelhouse. And conservatives are obsessed with this film. And it's probably not a healthy place to be as a society. It's probably not a healthy place to be when conservatives have their own set of media and liberals have another set of media. So one of the things that I want to do is sort of like break out of the echo chamber a little bit and pay attention to what conservatives care about and see what they're talking about. Right now, they're talking about this movie, Sound of Freedom. So I went to the theater and I watched it, and I wasn't super impressed. Like, it's not an amazing film. It's not a terrible film either. I know that the lead star got himself into trouble because he made some QAnon comments, but ironically enough, I can separate the politics of the actor from the film itself. I mean, in a sense, that's what conservatives have to do all the time, right? So yeah, I was able to separate the politics of the actor. I don't really care. Whatever, he can believe whatever weird things he wants to believe. Um, doesn't really mean it's a good or bad film. So I went in open-minded. Kind of went in with a preconception, like, okay, this is going to be like a film that's probably not going to be like QAnon stuff. It's probably going to be like normal because I looked online first. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll give it a shot. And yeah, it's not a bad film, but it seems very shallow. It's a little bit too long, in my opinion. The acting was like fine, but the characters didn't go anywhere. There was no great transformational journey that the characters went under. All of the characters are, by the end of the film, more or less as they were at the start. Maybe the main character has a bit more driven, right? He's a bit more driven. There will be spoilers in this, by the way, but he's a bit more driven to accomplish his goals and a bit less caring about the everyday bureaucracy and red tape that's holding him back from doing what he wants to do and pursuing what he believes to be morally just in the eyes of God, actually, because the film mentions God a lot, probably 3 or 4 times. God, God's children, this kind of language comes up, and that's fine. They obviously know their audience. It's going to be a very Christian audience, and probably a little bit more of a Christian conservative audience, and that's fine. So they know exactly what they're making who they're making the film for, and it's probably not a secular atheist humanist like me. So whatever. One, there were a few scenes that were I want to talk about in particular. The first of which was the scene where the main character, again, there are spoilers here. The main character, he tries to convince the pedophiles that he's one of them, so that they'll provide him with information and help him rescue the kids. Like, I thought that was pretty well done, actually. The scenes were shot pretty decently. Um, he had some like, close-ups to really convey the emotion, and the main actor he pulled off the scenes pretty well, I'd say. He does, and the idea of him convincing the pedophiles that he's one of them, I thought was actually a pretty interesting idea and plot point. So yeah, an interesting strategy to approach this, because complete shot in the dark, like almost no shot this is going to work, but whatever, he went for it and it played off. Then there's the scene where there's all these kids getting rounded up and they're like doing a photo shoot of them, and it's like it's a disturbing scene. Like it the fact that it made me, I'm a pretty tough stomach person. I don't get queasy over anything, but that the fact that that made my stomach turn a little bit, like, oh, this is kind of disgusting. Like even though it's obvious that they're not naked or anything, they're clothed, but still, it was like the way that they're sexualizing it was just like very appalling. And so the fact that they're able to convey that kind of emotion, and even someone like me who generally isn't appalled by anything, was impressive. Sure. And not only is he going to be like not providing basically non-help to somebody, not actually helping them and pretending that he is, which is his own ethical dilemma, but he's also in the process risking exposing himself as not being a real doctor, which isn't great. Isn't great for his own plan. And of course, you could sort of question the morality of him getting these official government documents from the Colombian government to impersonate a doctor, and these fake documents claiming that he's an aid worker. Like that's not that's not great. I get it. He wants to save the kid. That's his number one objective. He's willing to do anything to do that, and we're supposed to cheer that on in the film. But if we think about it, do we really want someone who's not really an aid worker and who's actually going in to try and go into these territories impersonating a doctor with the United Nations? Do we really want those people to be fake, to be who knows spies for foreign governments or anything, right? Those special identity cards should probably only be issued to people who actually are who they say they are, and they're jeopardizing possibly thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives in the long term by issuing these fake documents just so we can go in and save one person. I get it. You're saving one person now, and that sounds great, but in the long term, you're possibly putting, well, first of all, you're putting like all the aid workers around the world at risk because now the various groups that count on them being neutral are going to look at them and with a great deal of suspicion. Like, okay, they're spies for a foreign government, they're agents of the opposing force, whatever it happens to be. So that's not great. But overall, I'd say the film was fine. It was a bit shallow. It's a very straightforward film. You don't have to think about it too hard. It's the guy goes in, he arrests and kills pedophiles, and travels the world doing so. Very straightforward. Okay, film. But I've seen another film about a similar topic, and that was Prisoners by Denis Villeneuve. And his film is about the abduction of children. And I feel like he did this same topic much better. Like the film was just overall much better. Like every single scene in that film like looks deliberately shot. Like it was shot with a purpose. Like this scene here is meant to convey something in particular. That's how I felt about Prisoners. And the acting was very good, and like the suspense every moment was like holy shit. And you yourself as there's a mystery too. You yourself don't really know what's going on as the viewer in that film until the very end, which I thought was great. Like they actually had a pretty solid mystery that kept you guessing throughout the film, or at least me. Maybe I'm a dummy and didn't get it right away, but even the people I was watching it with were kind of taken in by this mystery and didn't really know what was happening, which I thought was awesome. So I really appreciated that film. It's actually probably one of the best films I've seen in recent years, even though it came out, I think, like 10 years ago. But I saw it recently with a friend, and with a couple friends actually, and yeah, it was really good. So anyway, that's my review of The Sound of Freedom. I thought it was okay. It's not like some evil QAnon film. There's no QAnon stuff in the film, and it's like not the greatest movie of all time, but it's okay. Anyway, I've broken through the echo chamber, I guess, a little bit. Hope this wasn't too disappointing of a review for you, but that's how I sort of felt about the film. I just wish there was so much more they could have done, but I get it. They don't want to have like a super like super intellectual film, which is the kind of movies I usually like to watch, where you have to like watch like 2 or 3 times to like fully take in all the different pieces. Like that's not what they were going for. They were going for a film where it's a action movie where the guy saves the world from or saves people from pedophiles. Like that's basically what they were going for, and that's fine. But not really the kind of movie I'm into.